Well, welcome everyone to the provisional chapter meeting. We're happy that you're here. And since we don't all know each other, very quickly, I'd like for everyone just to go around and make introductions, just who you are, what chapter you're with, what your role is, if you have one yet. Because we've got about a 2-hour meeting ahead of us with lots of info. So Taryn and Larry, why don't you start? And you're on mute.
There. Okay. I am the interim secretary. Larry's the interim president. And Susan Muller, who we were talking to earlier, is the interim treasurer for the North Georgia Mountains chapter. And I was hoping that we might have a couple more people that are looking to become board members in the coming year, but I haven't seen them yet.
Okay, well, maybe they'll join. All right, Ron, you want to go next? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Ron Smith, and I'm the GNPS treasurer.
Lori, how about you? You're on mute. There you go.
I'm Lori Conway. I am the state vice chair, and hopefully I will be affiliated with both the North Metro and the in-town chapters.
Carly?
I am co-chair of the membership committee for the state, and I am also interim president for the North Metro Atlanta chapter.
Awesome. And Shannon?
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm the interim treasurer for the in-town Atlanta chapter.
Awesome. Dana?
Yes, hi, I'm Dana Hallberg. I am the interim treasurer of the North Metro Atlanta chapter.
Okay. Carol, how about you?
I am Carol Bokros. I'm the interim president of the Fringed Campion chapter down in Macon in Middle Georgia. I thought we were going to have at least one more officer here, but hopefully she'll join us. Wait, do we have some?
We may have some other people join.
Yeah. Where are you? Oh, I thought that was Renee was talking to us. All right. So anyway, yes, I'm Carol.
Hi, Carol. Tom, you're next.
All right, here you go, Renee. Sit down. And...
Okay. Renee's got her IT technical support there helping her. Tom, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sorry, I thought you kind of about the time you said that your voice beeped out and I didn't recognize it. So I'm Tom Collins. I'm on the state board. I'm on the membership chapter relations committee on the state board as well. But I'm sort of like also a liaison with the in-town chapter.
You're unmuted.
Okay.
You see it?
Yeah.
Hi, Renee.
Hi, I'm Renee Hood. I'm I don't know, I'm on the board, so I'm here.
What chapter are you with, Renee?
I'm with the new the North Metro chapter.
Okay, cool.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
Got you. And Susan, I know your phone's about to die, and Taryn already introduced you. So if you want to say anything else, you can pop on. But if not, we'll go on and let Ellen introduce herself.
Okay, this is Ellen Honeycutt. I'm currently the chair of the state board, and the chapter that I am affiliated with is the North Metro Atlanta chapter.
John, are you connected yet? Can you hear us? I think he might still be.
Me?
Connected. No, John Rocker.
Oh.
Sorry. Is my sound not good?
You're okay. I think it just kind of cut out in the beginning.
Yeah, it's like when you first say something, it wakes up, and sometimes the very first syllable or something gets cut.
Got it.
Looks like John is having trouble connecting to audio.
Okay.
What you
Well,
see.
while he's connecting, I'll go ahead and just introduce myself. I'm Michelle Buchanan. I'm the chair of the membership committee. I'm the co-chair along with Carling. We are partners in crime, you might say, and I am in the North Metro chapter, but I do not have a position in the North Metro chapter. I'm just a member. So, all right, I think that got everybody. Did we miss anybody? Anyone not introduce themselves?
Think we're good.
All right. Well, congratulations. You have achieved provisional chapter status. And actually, it was an action at the board meeting recently on October 11th that brought you to this status. And I know what you're thinking. So what exactly does that mean, right? What does that mean for me? So that's really what we're going to talk about all night, is what it means to you, what's next, blah, blah, blah. So provisional status is when a chapter has achieved well, they have completed steps in the Quick Start Guide, a certain number of steps, and they have applied to the IRS for approval for their tax exempt status. Now, you may know that the IRS is months behind in processing the 1023-EZ forms. I believe they're either up to June or July now that they are processing. So it could be much longer before we actually get a response back to chapters on their status. And we didn't want you guys to be held back by that. And so that's why we went ahead and did the provisional status so you can move forward with doing the things that you need to do as a chapter. And I could make this look a little better, couldn't I? Hold on, I'm gonna change the view. All right, does that look better?
Yes.
Yes.
A little easier to read. So these are the topics we're going to cover tonight. So you can see we've got a lot to talk about, and some things will take a little while, some things will be quick, but we are going to try and cover all this. There may be things that we decide warrant a separate meeting, like, you know, we may need a separate meeting for a thorough discussion of financial policies, or, you know, things the treasurer should do, something like that. It'll be up to this group to decide, you know, if we need to have any follow-up meetings to cover any topics more in depth. So that's something you can decide and let us know at the end of the meeting. And Carlin, you want to talk about this?
Sure. So this really hard to read table is kind of the benefits that each chapter receives in their journey to becoming an affiliate. Whoa.
Sorry.
So first, we've kind of already seen a lot of these benefits in the first column, which is the forming chapter benefits. And hopefully most of you are already familiar with this from all of the interest meetings and other meetings that the membership chapter relations committee has kind of helped you with. But you'll see there's some red text where now that we are in the provisional chapter status, in the middle column, you can see that some of these benefits become available to us. So in that, we'll be getting chapter rebates, of course, until we, and correct me if I'm wrong, until we reach that 1023 EZ status, it might be a little tricky with plant sales and things, but maybe Ron can weigh in on that. But we do get the insurance. And there's another thing down there that you'll notice that becomes available, which is a hosted website with a chapter domain. Is there any questions kind of around this table? And Michelle, do we have this somewhere that chapters can access?
Well, they're going to get this presentation, so it'll be available in this presentation when we email it to you after the meeting. So if I don't have anybody's email, and I think I have everyone's, if John is able to rejoin us, I don't think I have his email. So Tara and Larry, you may need to send that to me so we can send the presentation to John.
Well, we may want to consider putting it in the chapter manual, which is a good segue into the chapter manual.
Okay.
So if you don't know where it is, it is available if you go onto the gnps.org website and click on the chapters menu, or you can click this link, chapter-manual, and it is there available to the public. And it is a very exhaustive guide and governance document to everything that a chapter needs to both form and run a chapter. And I do want to kind of remind everyone that this is a governance document. So any kind of procedures detailed in there are required for chapters to follow. Is there any questions on the chapter manual?
Michelle, if I could just jump in real quick with a word about the chapter manual. So when we redid the state bylaws in 2019, which hopefully everybody has read the state bylaws, because there is a section in the bylaws, in the state bylaws, that specifically addresses chapters. It is section article, I guess it's 17, and it's not very long, but the first thing that it refers to is the chapter manual, and it says, you know, a group of 10 or more persons may organize a chapter of GNPS. The group shall follow the procedure set out in the GNPS chapter manual. And when we were working with the woman, Linda DeSantis, at the time to rewrite these bylaws, we said, well, we don't have a chapter manual. And she said, well, you got to write one. So I can't tell you what a huge accomplishment it was to get this done. And yes, this is the Bible for chapters. And we had some similar guidance. I mean, a wisp of a type of guidance before, but we have, Michelle and Carling have worked extremely hard to put this together, and this is your Bible, and it is, you know, it is stipulated that this is what you will follow. So yes, please do read it, refer to it. That's your go-to guidance document.
And bookmark it too. And I'll tell you, even though you know, I helped make it come to fruition, I still refer to it for my normal chapter stuff. So.
And not only you, but also your anyone who's serving in a leadership role in your chapter, whether it's a committee chair or someone on your board, should also be reading it. Everybody should be familiar with it, just as they are with your chapter bylaws and other important governance documents.
All right, let's talk about Neon CRM, and specifically using it for emailing your members. I know some of the chapters kind of use that mailing list in the beginning to help with formation activities, but now that you know, you're an official provisional chapter, it's a lot easier and compliance-wise to use the Neon CRM email campaign feature. Tom, did you want to speak on some of these points?
Actually, I don't know. I guess really it only to the extent that they get, that they need explanation. I mean, the main thing is, I think a lot of people, what we run into is the first time they have to send emails, they're express frustration because it's not their email client. Everybody's got an email client. They like to send email that way. That's what they're used to doing. And that doesn't happen. And it's for these reasons. It's for all these reasons on this thing. You won't be able to send to a whole, to hundreds of people. You won't be able with the federal law, which doesn't strictly apply to nonprofits, but most nonprofits voluntarily comply with it, and so do we, as far as having the ability to unsubscribe. So this is the alternative to keeping just a massive list and to use your own email client. It's just kind of what you have to do.
And I
if
think
you-
that
you know-
the main benefit is that you don't have to keep track of that list of members. Neon CRM, we're already keeping track of your members. So the list is kind of live. You don't have to add or remove people from an email list. You just kind of send it and it's got the latest list.
And one thing that usually comes up is, well, I know how to use MailChimp, or I know how to use Contact. Can I use that? And the downside to any of that is that you mainly lose the things on the bottom. You use the middle things. The email audience is the second one you list, and the third one you miss. So if you try to do that, you no longer have this real-time connection that Carlene just talked about. You can figure out, you can export it periodically and sort of keep it updated, but it's just not nearly as seamless a system, and it's really not that much different to use. I mean, the Neon is really not that much different from the other ones.
It is a little scary, I will admit, at first.
But it's better than it used to be. It changed a lot a few months ago. It's to be much more on par with the competition.
A question, this is Dana. Do we get bounce backs for non-deliverables, or does that go to another portion of the server?
Actually, why don't you
will?
advance to the next slide and I'll kind of make an example of one of Tom's points. So this is kind of what you can see on a single email, and you can see there's a bounce rate, one recipient. Okay. Yeah, but and so instead of, if we use MailChimp, we wouldn't kind of get these types of statistics where you can see who opened it, who clicked on it, and things like that.
That's helpful. So it does, the bounce, the non-deliverable doesn't come to us, it goes to this statistic.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
But you
And
can
then you
look
can
at
follow-
it. You can open it and see who it was if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, you can drill down to the detail and see who that one recipient was. And it's a good idea to do this after you send out an email. We've sent out some recently that had a large number of bounce backs, and it seems like one of the email servers just was having some glitches that day. So if you were on a particular domain, I think it was Windstream, and there were a couple of them, you just didn't get the email. It came back, it was refused. So we were able to send those emails again, and then those people were able to receive them. So it is an important thing to do, to come back and check just to be sure that your email went out correctly, was delivered to the number of people that you expected.
Okay, thank you.
I think this slide might be out of order, but could you go forward one slide? So a little more about Neon CRM. So every time a new member joins GNPS, we send them a welcome email, which is what you just saw if you want to go back one. So it's just, new members join. We kind of talk about, the things that we do. And also the membership committee gets copied on this email, just in case we want to follow up. Do you want to go forward again? Just to kind of give you an idea of what's in there, because you might be a member for a long time and you don't actually see these emails going out, right? So the question here is, for the chapters, would it be helpful to get notified when a new member kind of joins and affiliates?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I thought that might be the answer.
Personalize it, we could even follow up with a phone call, and welcome aboard.
Right, and that's kind of what we were thinking was, it's nice that the member gets this welcome to GNPS, but it'd be even better if you got some personalized content from, hey, thanks for joining our chapter, and here's our Facebook page, and here's how you can contact us, or whatever information you want to provide. So this is something that we're exploring and working on. We haven't worked out all the details yet, but good to hear that you would like to do this.
Yeah, I have always sent out a personalized email, but a welcome letter like this. but it would be really nice to be able to get word when a new member is in, rather than every month or so I go through and say, anybody new here? Da, da, da. So that would be helpful. Yeah.
I think a couple of people joined us. Alex, are you there?
Yeah, hey, so sorry, I'm late.
No worries. And is that Greg Lewis?
It is. I snuck in a bit late, sorry.
Hello. Ellen, do you want to take it away with the social media guidance?
Just before Ellen jumps in on social media, so I am going to later in the presentation, we'll be talking about the affiliation agreement, and another hat that I wear on the board is the chair of the governance committee. And so just in case anybody's not clear, I may sound a little firm here, but the use of neon is going to be a requirement. So it is certainly a benefit to the chapters, because if you wanted to go out and buy this kind of software for yourself, it would be quite costly. And so in truth, GNPS has not really been utilizing this subscription to the great degree that we could have. And now that we have more chapters, we're really going to get our money's worth out of it. But this is something that we're pretty clear that this is a requirement. We want all the chapters to use Neon for their communications, and we're here to support you in anything you need to get that done. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Lori. So this is Ellen. I think, Michelle, are you going to click on this? Because I can't remember what all I said. So here's a link to the social media guidance. So I've been doing the Facebook page for quite a while, probably since 2010. And we also, I also do Twitter and Instagram. So they're not, I'm not as active on those, but I do have some tips that I want to share with you. So first of all, what we're listing here are the Facebook pages that we know of. So there's the main state level page, West Georgia chapters page, and on down. So we have 2 of the forming chapters that don't have one yet. So when you guys get that, we'll add your URL to it. As far as I know, the state is the only one that has a Twitter account right now. If anybody adds a Twitter account for their chapter, let me know, and we'll just add it to our repository of information. There on Instagram is on the main page, and then West Georgia has an Instagram page. And then on LinkedIn, there's our address. We don't put a lot on that, but we're there for people to find us. And right now we're not doing anything on Pinterest. So next page. So I won't go into this in detail, but just so that you can see that this kind of information is available to you, just some general content guidelines, and my personal insistence is that since we're a plant society, we should use the plant name, and we should use the Latin name, and we should spell it correctly with the genus capitalized and the species in lowercase, and the common names. If you use a photo that doesn't belong to you, just credit the source. People are really good about educational resources using their photos as long as you acknowledge it. And then, of course, just be aware that when you comment back, that you're commenting back as your chapter. And so, just phrase your comments accordingly. Then down on the posts on Facebook, as we all know, Facebook does have algorithms that help get information distributed either well or not at all. And of course, it's a game, but we might as well play it. So I just shared some information here that you can look at later. Instagram, you might as well go ahead and make your photo a square before you do it, because if you don't, it will, and you may not like the way it did it. So, and so let's see, what's the next page, Michelle? Oh, events. So when you have an event, and this is going to be on Facebook, is what I'm going to mostly talk about, but to start with, of course, create your event on the GNPS calendar. A lot of people come to our website. They may not even know about your chapter. They're just looking to see if there's anything going on. So when you put your events on the GNPS calendar, then people can find them. Even if they didn't find you first, they might have found the event on our calendar. If you're creating an event on Facebook, and I highly recommend that you do, because that's how a lot of people share information with their friends, then you want to add the main GNPS page as your co-host. And you do that as part of creating the page. As part of creating the event. There's a place there to add a co-host. And if you're not sure how to do this, just reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to walk you through it. Facebook changes their software every now and then, so I used to write up detailed things with screenshots, but every time they update their software, my job aid is out of date. So, and then of course, remember, if you have to update your event, to do it on Facebook and on the calendar. And Fringe Campion just did create an event, by the way, and I was able to get, they tagged us, so that was great.
Thank you for that.
Hashtag, yeah. Hashtags, and this is just optional, and it's really more for, I know people are doing hashtags on Facebook now, but mostly it gets used on Instagram and Twitter, so I'm not going to go into this, but if you're doing Twitter and Instagram, these are good kinds of tags. For example, even on my personal page, when I'm doing Instagram, I will put things like hashtag blooming now, so that if people are just out there looking to find out what's blooming now, that will help them find your native plant picture. All right, so do I have another page?
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay, so the last part is down on Twitter also, that, you know, if you start using Twitter and you want to tag some other things, and that last paragraph talks about tagging other people. So this is just something you can read at your leisure. Any questions?
No. Thanks.
And this document is available through the chapter manual. It's linked there. So you can find it when you need it. Any questions
Now,
on anything we've talked about so far?
No.
and you had something else linked there. If you close this, you had another hot link, but I don't know what that was.
It's a link to
Go back to
the guidance in the chapter manual.
Okay, great.
So
All
when
right.
you get this presentation, you can click on that link and go right to the chapter manual where we talk about this stuff.
Okay.
All right. Well, then if everybody's good, we're going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to move into the very important finance, insurance, money stuff. The Ron Smith area that he knows so well, and the rest of us just are in awe of him sometimes at what he knows and can tell us. So welcome, Ron, and I will click through the slides and let me know anything you want me to do, Ron.
Okay. Well, IRS guidance, while your 1023 is pending, you can go into full operation. The only caveat there is that if a donor is going to donate money to you, it's not tax deductible to them until such time as you do get that exemption, and then you can, and then that's when they can deduct it. So if you're like me, I just take I don't deduct things anymore. I just take standard deduction, but and I think probably most people do, but that's probably not a big deal, but that's, but you can go into business. So, there is also, I think the key compliance things, one is you will have to do a Form 990. 990N is a fairly simple tax filing, a way to do your return. It's online. It's like 5 or 6 questions you have to answer. It doesn't take a lot of time. Probably the first time it'll be a little intimidating to go on there and do that. But that needs to be filed by May 15th. I think that's the main thing. The other thing is that as a tax exempt charity or not charity, but organization, you really don't want to have any unrelated business income. So if you get income, it should be from things that are mission related. So selling t-shirts that promote saving native plants and so forth, that's fine. Selling plants, getting fees for educational events and so forth. But we can't go sell used automobiles, even if it's to raise money for our charity, because it's not really an activity or business activity that is mission related. We don't want to have a big red flag is to have any corporate sponsorships. So you don't want to have a corporation that you've got to deal with where if you put their name on your website or something, they pay you money or something. So, those are things I don't think any of us would intend to do or plan to do, but you don't want to have any unrelated business income, and you want to file your federal return on time. So, and you will have to do that this coming May 5th, by May 15th.
So that corporate sponsorship part, what if they just donate money? That's
well,
fine.
they can donate money if there's no restrictions or anything in return. The key is that we're not doing anything in return for them for that donation.
And because Fringed Campion's propagation workshop is going to be at Flat Creek, but Flat Creek is not getting anything in return from us. Right. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
More of a partnership, I think.
That's what I thought, but now right.
Right. And I just wanted to point out that the 2 links at the bottom of this page are links to IRS information about how to comply with 501c3s, so you're not doing things you shouldn't, and tax law compliance before your exempt status is recognized. So when you get this presentation, be sure and click on those links and read that information so you'll be familiar with it.
All right. So recently, the board approved directors and officers insurance for all chapters. And what that insurance does is it actually doesn't cover just directors and officers. It also covers committee members, and volunteers. But what it insures against is any wrongful acts, any lawsuits. Basically, it's going to be a lawsuit that's for a wrongful act. The kinds of wrongful acts that those suits are brought for is things like accusing a member of the board or the chair of lack of governance that caused an issue, breach of responsibility, harassment, stealing somebody's intellectual property, those sorts of things. I think we're probably one of the few native plant societies that offers this insurance to its chapters. But I think it's important. It's important to know for some directors, we have one chapter where a board member went out and bought their own insurance because at that time we didn't have coverage. So, okay. And we do, for your coverage, I do need to have the name of the chapter. It's not so much, I think, directors and officers as it is the general liability coverage, but we actually have to put the chapter name and the address. And also, when you do send that to me, let me know if you have any physical premise. And if you don't, be sure to say no, because that's important. If we have a physical premise, then that increases our risk, basically. And most of us don't have one, but if you do, let me know.
Is that like an office, Ron? I'm not sure I understand.
If you rented an office, you
or
had an address and you rented an office,
okay,
or premises,
okay.
Then
if we're just using somebody's home address, that
right, if you're just using a home address to get your mail,
yeah,
or you have a post office box or whatever, then that doesn't count. And when you give me your address, be sure to let me know that's not a physical presence. It's just a mailing address. Okay. All right, I guess we can go to the next one. Model financial policies. So GNPS in 2012 drafted the first financial policy GNPS had, and over time they've changed. It's sort of a living document, but what it's meant to be, it's a stab at defining best practices for good fiscal management. When we talk about fiscal management, we talk about protecting our assets, being in compliance with regulations and laws, having controls that prevent fraud and other things, having controls that ensure that the financial information the board gets is accurate. So it's those kinds of things. And when we talk about, it's not really procedures. We tried not to get into procedures too much, which is the detail of how you do something, but more policies being the guiding principles or rules that we follow, and we follow them consistently. In the past, I know there's sometimes when a different treasurer came in, there was a different method of accounting. There was a different way things were done because each person had their own way. But it's really important in accounting and fiscal management. Consistency is a real strong principle, and we want to do things the same way year after year. That way you can have comparisons and so forth. So, and what we'd like, what I'd like folks to do is to read through this. I don't want to go through it all this evening, but take your time and read through it. And hopefully, I mean, I'd like to know if you read through it, if it makes sense to you, and you understand it and you agree with it. If I go through it now and explain it, then maybe it's not doing the job I want it to do. So do read through it and let me know if you have any questions or anything. Feedback is real important. And then if you do understand it, it makes sense to you and you agree with it, then have the board adopt these policies. And to keep them relevant, do that at least every 2 years. You have changes in directors and things, and we don't want to just go into a dark hole then and be forgotten about. So it would be a good thing, I think, at least every 2 years for the board to readopt these policies. And some of the things, just quick, I would go through is like, I think it's important when you open a bank account that you have not just a treasurer who can go view the information in that bank account, but assign the ability for somebody to have read-only access at least, where they can see the activity in the bank account, they can see the balance in the bank account, they can compare that to the financial report that's given to the board. That's good internal control. We don't want to have one person that receives money, pays out money, and creates financial statements without anybody else being involved in the process. So I think that's really key. And that's in a small organization, sometimes it's really difficult because you don't have many people and everybody's got a big workload. But segregation of duties is real important. So
Ron, this is Dana. Quick
Yeah.
question as it
Sure.
relates to the accounting. Do you have a recommendation if we go for QuickBooks, online, or just use Excel? What is your recommendation for the new?
Well,
for the new
I would tell
chapters?
you QuickBooks Online is a great tool. That's what we use. But it's not cheap. It's
Right.
it's like $600 a year or something, and we're getting a deal. What I have done, I think, for starting chapters, and I took this from West Georgia. I liked the rather simple, straightforward way of just listing in a worksheet the beginning bank balance for the beginning, say January 1st, and then listing the transactions, who they paid for what reason and how much and what date. And you come down to an ending bank balance. And because we're on a cash basis, that ending bank balance should always agree to what the bank or the ending balance that you have when you're on that statement should agree to what the cash in your bank account is.
Mhm.
And if you're doing that, everybody can see where all the money went. And when you only have a few transactions, which beginning chapters should only, you won't have too many. The ones that have been around for years, they probably have maybe 25 transactions in a year. When you get up around that, it's too many trees to see the forest. And then we go into a little more sophistication where we have a chart of accounts and we aggregate some of these transactions into accounts. So, you may buy supplies for plants and you have different kinds and but you have one account that aggregates all the costs in making plants. So with that in mind, I have just about finished a financial reporting system, 4 chapters that is in Excel, and it does have some sort of what I've described. And I'll send that to you. It's not quite complete yet. I got to spend a couple of days more on it. But it's pretty close. But you know, I'd be glad to share that with anybody that thinks they want to use that. You are free to go, and there are free accounting systems that you can get, that would be available that might work for you. But you're certainly have that option if you want to do that.
All right, thank you.
Let's see what else we got here.
And Ron, on this slide, I just wanted to let folks know that when you're going to the bank to open your account, whoever's going to do that, if the bank offers you the options of are you an S Corp or a C Corp, you're neither one of those. You are a nonprofit organization, and don't let them make you sign up for an S Corp or a C Corp account, because that is not what you are.
Right.
And Ron mentioned a board passing a resolution about the bank account, and there is a link here to that document. It's also available in the chapter manual. It's a resolution that the board adopts where to open the bank account. And then that can be done every, as often as needed. Hopefully you don't have to change bank accounts too much, but that's available in the chapter manual as well.
And let me say that banks and even branches of banks, when you go to open a bank account, they may have different requirements. You may be able to walk in and just open up a bank account without anything from a board of directors or anything. And other ones may want a resolution. And what this form is, it's actually would be part of the minutes of your organization, and it just basically says the board is authorizing that this bank account be opened, or a bank account with Bank of America be opened, and that certain officers, and I recommend you have 2 officers, a treasurer and another officer. We normally had the president and the treasurer have signature authority, although the treasurer is usually the only person that uses it. In an emergency situation, you have that backup. And so you complete this, and it's in your minutes, and then you can give this to a bank, showing them that you have authorization. But the people that are signatories will still need to go to the bank along with both people anyway. So, but there are some banks that require a corporate resolution that was adopted by the board. They want to see that. Others won't care. So it's hard to say what it is, but it's not a bad thing to go ahead and do this.
Ron, this is one I threw in there that you might not have known about, but we had a couple of chapters who, when they applied for their sales and use tax ID, we were stumped because the thing just wouldn't work. So if you have not yet done that, you will need to know these 2 things when you're filling out that online form. Here's the right NAICS code. And when you're entering your officers, there's a field for cease date. Do not put anything in that cease date. If you do, it's like you just wiped out what you just entered. So do not enter a cease date and use this NAICS code, and the rest is fairly simple.
And let me say about sales tax. If you've had any sales, we've had one chapter that's had sales. They've gone ahead and sent the money to the state GNPS, and we put it in our bank account. We're paying the sales tax and stuff on it, and then we're going to send the net back to the chapter when we have a bank account. And but if you do have sales between now and the end of the year, you're going to have to report those sales taxes, and you have to do it by January 20th. And you'll be on an annual basis, more than likely. That's what you're going to be on to begin with, unless you get a lot of sales, and then it could go quarterly or even monthly, and depending on how much it is. But so do put that on your calendar that that if you have anything going on, that you're going to have to do that by January 20th. And when you're doing your sales tax, the sales include the tax. So the sales amount is actually less than what you collected, and you cheat yourself if your tax rate, the state tax is 4%. Here in DeKalb County, the county tax is 3%, and then there's a special 1% thing, so it's 8%. You don't want to take, if it's $100 sale, you don't want to take 8% of that. You want to divide that by 1.08, and that gives you your sales number. If you take 8% of that, that's what you'll be paying in tax. So just that's a simple little thing, but it can cost you money over time if you don't do that. Okay.
Right. Any questions before we move forward? There's a lot to take in. And Ron is very good at working with you. If you need to send him an email, and he will help you out, provide you with templates or instructions or secrets that he knows that none of us know. He's the guy. So take advantage of that.
This is Dana. I do have a question. You made a comment of sales tax reporting by January 20th. That's for, I guess, a modest number. Can you give us an example of what a non-modest number might be that we might need to do it, quarterly, for example, Ron?
I think our sales this past year, we used to be GNPS had some pretty big plant sales and merchandise sales, but we didn't have much because of the pandemic. We've just gone to an annual, and we'll probably have $1,500 or something like that in sales. But if you get up around 3,000 or 4,000, they probably want you to do it quarterly. Just how fast, if it's more money, they want their money faster.
Sure. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And Ron, doesn't the state decide that for you? They tell you how often?
They do. They tell you, you'll get a letter like in October of each year telling you what, if you're going to be an annual or quarterly or whatever for the next year. Right.
All right, well, we're changing gears a little bit, although Ron will probably have some input on some of this down the road when we talk about chapter rebates. But each year, and last year was the first year we did it because it was the first year we really started the initiative to have more chapters and have a state level governance. We send a survey out to chapters and we ask a bunch of questions like, who are your current board members? What kind of events are you having? We gather a lot of information for several reasons. We want to be sure that things that need to happen, like paying your sales tax, those things are happening. And it also gives us an opportunity to find out about things you're doing that have been like wonderful. And then, we can share those things with other chapters as, hey, here's a great idea that the in-town chapter did, and you might want to try it too. So we ask a ton of questions. It's probably take you 30 to 45 minutes to do the whole survey, maybe not even that much time, but it will go out in January. And we typically send it to the chapter president for them to complete, and they can get input from other people, but it's a fill in the blank form with some free form text. So nothing to be afraid of, but just to know that that is one of the things that we do each year. And it's one of the things that when we talk about a chapter being in good standing, completing the chapter survey each year is one of the things that keeps you in good standing. So you want to be sure and do that. So everything, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So look for that in January, and we'll let you know before we send it out that it's coming. and we'll follow up and bother you until we get your responses. Okay.
And one other thing, I guess, Michelle, is that, you know, we envision that, I don't know that we've set this up for next year, but it might be the kind of thing that once you have done your first chapter survey, you would just go in and update your information for the following year. So, you know, if your chapter operations have not changed substantially from one year to the next, then the next year your survey might be pretty quick to fill out. But essentially it does serve as kind of your annual report to GNPS to let us know that everything is rolling along well.
Right.
So chapter rebates, so early April, you should get a check for any, for all the affiliated members you have with your chapters. So you might want to work now to get more affiliated members. So we pay you 25% of whatever they paid in dues in the last year, and that for chapters it's been somewhere around like $550 to $700 and some dollars each year. So and that so I guess that's all I have to say about that. But
Yep, and those amounts were for chapters that had, you know, 60 to 80 members. So if you have fewer members or more members, your rebate's going to be adjusted accordingly. It's 25% of whatever dues your chapter members have paid in the prior year.
right, and if you have a lifetime member, that's a nice big chunk for that year.
Oh, how does that work with the lifetime members?
Well, if they paid $1,000, that's what our membership is.
Oh, but only in the year that they joined.
In that year, that's right. So you get it all up front.
That's right, Carly. You're not getting any money from me, so.
You knew I was thinking of you.
You'll have
Freeloader.
You'll have to hit Ellen up for just a general donation.
Oh, she gives enough.
All right, Lori, you want to talk to us about the chapter affiliation agreement?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was up next. We've been moving along rather quickly. So you may have already heard some stuff about the affiliation agreement, or you probably did, and I apologize that we have not been able to get this finished earlier, but we have made incredibly good progress on it. We currently have the document drafted and it's in review with the governance and executive committees and a few key chapter members. And then once we have our internal review complete, we're going to send it out to a third-party attorney who specializes in nonprofit organizations and have him review it before we send it out. But if anybody really wants to see it, once we get the executive and governance committee's input and I get it fairly in good shape, if anybody really wants to see it, I would be happy to share that with you. But the purpose of the affiliation agreement is it's very similar to a franchise agreement in business. It's a very commonplace agreement to have where there's a parent organization and affiliates or chapters. And really the purpose of you guys as a local chapter is to recruit and engage members at the local level and to deliver our programs and explore growth opportunities, for GNPS in your area. And the purpose of the affiliation agreement is to really keep our relationship with you on really solid ground so that everybody's really clear about who's doing what we're providing to you guys, what our expectations are in return, because it's particularly important given that you guys are all your own 501. So if we could switch to the next slide, Michelle, you know, in no way is this going to diminish your independent status. I want that to be very clear. You guys are your own 501 organization, and you are responsible to manage your organization just like it were a standalone organization. But we are providing some things to you, and in return we want a few things done for us. and really what this is about is presenting a consistent brand across the state. I mean, we're all going to be we will be stronger if we all work together from the same page, right? So we want there to be consistency in our operations across the state, and that's really what we're aiming at. It's not, our aim is not to force a chapter to do everything exactly like the next chapter. There is certainly plenty of room for chapters to meet the needs of their unique constituents in their area, to form, to form alliances with your local governments, your local parks and recreation, local nature preserves, things like that. There's plenty of room for autonomy in this agreement. So let me just hit a couple of the high points on this slide. These are probably the primary things that we're going to ask the chapters to agree to. Bottom line is we want you to follow the chapter manual. We want you to adhere to the bylaws, both the GNPS bylaws and your bylaws, which we've provided a template for that because we want all the chapters to kind of have the same bylaws, and our GNPS policies and procedures. And we want you to promote the GNPS conservation and education programs. We're going to ask that you not engage in activities that are outside the mission of GNPS, but in between that period after programs and the space between not engage, there's a lot of room for you guys to do what you feel is necessary to do to, to serve your local area. So I think that the mission of GNPS is broad enough that everybody will be able to find what they need to do. But let's say if you're going to start a rescue program in your area, or somebody comes to you and says, hey, we'd like to enter into, we'd like to get you guys to come and rescue some plants, on this city property and help us start a nature preserve. Well, we would expect that you would look to our state rescue guidelines and our state restoration program guidelines to guide your activities to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We're not saying that, oh, you can't do that. We're not saying, oh, we have to come down there and have our thumb on you while you're doing that. It's not that at all. We're just saying, here's a framework for how to do that. And that way we know everybody's kind of doing things similarly across the state. So anyway, in regard to membership, we expect that you will be recruiting members to GNPS and certainly encouraging them to affiliate with your chapter. But as I mentioned earlier, there is a stipulation that everybody joins at the state level, and then the membership will be maintained through NEON at the state level. We really cannot allow chapters to maintain their own membership records or solicit membership separate from GNPS. That's kind of a fundamental, that's just one of the fundamental rules. So another fundamental rule is that please do not sign any contracts without GNPS's approval. Now, again, there probably will be a little latitude on that, like you want to rent a meeting space for a meeting for $50. I don't know. We'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But we, at least for the beginning, we'd like you to come to us with any kind of contracts for any activities, because Ron has to review those against our insurance coverages that we're providing to you guys for liability and such. So again, I'm probably talking about this because we've run into some issues with in the past, and we have, and so this is a very big thing. We cannot have anybody signing contracts on behalf of GNPS, since we provide your insurance and things like that. And then the rest of the stuff is really pretty easy. We just ask that there be communication between the chapters and the state. We will ask you guys to be participating in our strategic planning. We will be doing some strategic planning this November, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit of a later slide. But we will have some strategic planning activities that we'll be pushing down to the chapter level, and we want everybody to participate in this. I think this will be a very wonderful thing that will help move the organization forward. We do ask that each chapter provide one person to serve on the state level membership chapter relations committee, because right now that membership chapter relations committee is the one committee that is going to be the voice of all the chapters. So we want representation from all the chapters on that state level committee. And you're not required, but you're certainly encouraged to send a member to attend the state board of director meetings when we have those quarterly, to listen and to convey any information that may be relevant back to your chapter as a liaison. So that's in a nutshell about the affiliation agreement. I hope that's not too daunting for anybody. Please note, we're not telling you, you have to use QuickBooks or whatever. I mean, you can run your organization as you see fit within the framework that we've provided. We hope that you will view the tools that we've set up in the chapter manual as helpful. This is intended to be a collaborative effort, and I'm sure as many of you are also involved in other organizations, other 501s. I certainly would have been grateful if I had been provided some of the information that GNPS is providing to the chapters. So I hope you all see that as a benefit, and we're always looking to improve. So anyway, any questions about the affiliation agreement? If not, you can certainly email me separately.
Lori, is this something that each chapter will have to sign? Is it going to be like a memorialized?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Each chapter will sign it initially. And I mean, that's one of the things I'll have to work out with the attorney. We've already had one call with him, and I think he said probably we would do something like a whatever you do, the online signing.
Okay.
For the initial thing. And then it won't have to be renewed every year unless we were to update it for some reason. But I think it's the kind of thing that, annually, or as you bring on new board members, you would certainly want to have them read that and understand, what the requirements are.
Thanks.
I just wanted to add the last bullet about providing a member to attend the state board meetings. They're on the events calendar on the website. And if you do want to attend any meeting, just let me know. I'm the secretary for the organization as well. So I can send you a link to the Zoom meeting invitation, and you're welcome to join us anytime.
And it's worth noting that in theory, all of our members are open to any member. Any member can come anytime. They have to let us know so we don't, we can be prepared for it. But we're supposed to be transparent. So
Yeah, that's correct. I was going to use that same term, Tom. This is all intended to be in the name of transparency.
Sorry, I had to let a dog in. So Lori touched on this, the membership chapter relations committee. Right now, we've got about 8 members, And we would love to have a member from each chapter on our committee because, you know, we're in charge of coming up with chapter policies and guidelines and programs and things, and we need input from chapters, especially if you're out in a further away from Atlanta. You know, those are unique needs for people in Macon or in Augusta or in the North Georgia mountains. It's not like Atlanta, and we need the input from people from those chapters so that we make decisions that are best for everyone. So we would love to have you send a member. We meet every other month, and then occasionally we have a pop-up meeting if something comes up, but it's typically every other month. So yeah, so think about, and it doesn't have to be the president or vice president. It can just be, you know, someone that you think would be good at that job.
And just to mention, it wasn't just Michelle and I working on the chapter manual. The entire membership chapter relations committee put, you know, a huge help into there. So we got input from every single chapter, poring over it. So every voice is heard in that document.
Yeah, we had input from chapters, from all the board members had an opportunity to review the chapter manual and give their input. Ron played a huge role providing all the financial stuff. So it's been touched by many hands. All right. Lori and Ellen are going to talk about state level committees.
Ellen, would you like to start?
Oh, yes. I didn't know I was going to talk about this. But so I'm going to talk, can I talk about education? So I am the chair of the State Education Committee, and underneath that we have a number of subcommittees. And so one of them is habitat certification. Habitat certification is an optional program that is managed at the state level for policies and procedures. And when chapters are ready to take that on, they can start handling habitat certification requests in their chapter area. And we've written up all the procedures, and we have experienced people to lean on. So that's one of our optional programs. The symposium is another subcommittee under education. And that is, of course, last year we had it as a virtual event. In 2022, it is also going to be a virtual event. And we partnered with Georgia Audubon last year, and we will be partnering with them this year as well. But we hope, of course, to get back to having the symposium in person. And when we do, we will choose a location and hopefully work with a chapter to help us produce that. Let's see, so that we do have some other subcommittees under education, but okay. So then, of course, finance is a state level committee, and Ron is the chair for that. Membership and chapter relations is another one of our key state level committees, and that we have co-chairs for that, Michelle and Carling. And then, but volunteer is not a state committee, Michelle, is it?
If you say it's not, Ellen, then it's not.
Oh,
maybe one day it could be.
No, yeah, no, it's not. It's sort of a subset of membership, kind of, really. There's also one other committee. One of the committees that's not on there is the audit committee, because it's not on there because it's boring and it doesn't do a whole lot very often. But we do want chapter involvement, because if we're auditing ourselves to make sure that we're doing things on the up and up, we definitely want chapters involved in that process.
Well, actually, Tom, the audit committee is supposed to be, I think, is all directors of the board. But the finance committee, however, does need outside members off of the board. So we are going to be actively recruiting probably some additional members for the finance committee. And I may be wrong about the audit committee, but we can certainly clarify that. I'm looking at the bylaws right this second. So another committee that is not mentioned up there is the governance committee. And as you all probably know from having to fill out your bylaws and learning about governance committees, the primary role of the governance committee is to recruit new board members to your board. So our governance committee has been focused a little bit on things like the affiliation agreement and some other policy issues surrounding governance of the organization this year, but we're going to be shifting focus probably this coming year on really recruiting more members to the state board in a very deliberate fashion in terms of evaluating the needs of our board and what holes do we need to fill. And so that's one of the purposes of the governance committee. The conservation committee, as you all know, GNPS really has two major prongs: education and conservation. And so our conservation committee, we have a primary, overarching conservation committee, and then we have three subcommittees under that for the three primary conservation activities that we do: plant propagation, plant rescue, and restoration sites. So we have subcommittees at the state level for each of those activities, and we've been working really hard over the past year to develop manuals and policies and to help the chapters implement those programs at their chapter level. And we have a good many of those policies pretty close to being ready to go, or some of them probably are ready to be implemented, but we are still working on those. And so we're certainly, recruiting more members for those committees in the future. And Carly, I don't know if you and Tom want to, or Tom want to talk about the communications committee.
Well, I think we're just ramping one up because we didn't actually have one when we went to the new state organization. We've only, I think in recent weeks said, well, it's pretty much synonymous with the three of us on the membership committee right now, because Billy, Michelle, and Carling and me, and Ellen too, for that matter. We're kind of like the communications committee as it is, but it really needs to be stood up as something that actually has a more formal mission, I think.
And we need help.
Right. I mean, then, it's a state level committee, so we want members from across the state. And one idea I've heard, and I think it's a good one, is if in your chapter you have a conservation committee, then someone on that committee should be on the conservation committee at the state level, membership committee, education committee. Have someone from that committee, if you have one, to be able to go to those meetings and be in the know on what the state level committees are doing. So that is one way. But we just, you may have guessed by now that we wear many hats, and most of us who are on the board, which those of us on the call who are on the board are me, Ron, Carling, Tom, Lori, and Ellen. Did I miss anybody? I think that's it. And we are all on 4, 5, or 6 different committees in addition to being having our board service. So we that's just how it is with small nonprofits. It's small organizations. You wear many hats. And we like to share the wealth with people. So as we get more members in other areas, we want to bring in them to get their input and ideas, because that's just important to an organization. So that we think of other ways of doing things and implementing programs and things like that. So think about who you might have in your chapter who might want to be on one of these committees, and send us their names. We'll get with them and sign them up.
So one more thing related to communications, just a day or two ago, I sent an email to everybody who is officially the contact for the Nativescape newsletter. So in some cases it's you were here, in some cases it's somebody else that you said. So that went out, and we do need to get chapter news every month. So either you or whoever was that went to, probably since there's so much happening in terms of the provisional status and everybody's having their first annual meetings, I was kind of hoping that we would be able to sort of highlight all those annual meetings, make sure so that everybody can see that, in case, because some people still don't quite get this whole chapter thing. We got a lot of members, hundreds of members, mostly now spread throughout the state, because we've really been cleaning up Atlanta, mopping up Atlanta heavily. But I think every time they see an article where chapters are mentioned and chapter happenings are going, it'll eventually kick in. Hey, wait a minute. Why didn't I hear about this event? It's because you're not on the mailing list for that chapter, because you're not in a chapter. And we'll eventually get more of them. The more news we have about what's going on in the chapters, the better.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Tom said. I was just about to say it myself. There's still a lot of people that read our newsletter that don't realize, and we've all been living it, and so we all know, and you guys know because you've been doing the chapter work, but still a lot of people who don't realize that chapters are the way of the future. And so even if it's just a little blurb that you put in every month, that, hey, this is what's blooming in our chapter area right now. Be sure and look out for it. Or, we had a great meeting last month and we're looking for ideas on new ones. Send your ideas to blah, blah, email, so it doesn't have to be a long article. You just want to stay in people's minds, right? So there.
One final note I wanted to say about state level committees is that, once we get past this next couple years and we get all of this policy and procedure stuff hammered out, we hope to turn to a few other issues and hopefully to establish a state level committee on advocacy and legislation, because that is one of the things we really want. We really want the chapters to be doing the serious boots on the ground, having educational meetings and plant sales and all of that grassroots kind of activities that keep people kind of engaged and help really reach new people. And then we would like for the state level committees to sit more and address larger issues. And there's been so many times when people have come to us and said, can't you guys get invasive species banned from big box stores and things like other states have done. And those are things that we would like to tackle at the state level once we get past some of these initial things. So there will probably be some new state level committees coming along in the future.
All right, let's talk about chapter council. So this is kind of an idea that's been tossed around in the past few months. And I will tell you that when I first joined this meeting and I saw all the faces from all the chapters around the state, I got really excited because I knew that there's a lot of ideas and a lot of collaboration and a lot of cool stuff that we could all learn from each other. So the idea here kind of came from the Florida Native Plant Society. They have this idea of a chapter council. And I'll tell you one thing about Florida is that they have a lot of chapters, and a lot of the stuff we've kind of, we met with them and we learned how they're kind of managing all these chapters, and a lot of the stuff we've enacted kind of came from them. But they have a meeting with representatives from each chapter at this chapter council meeting, and it's all about talking about things that are going on, exchanging ideas, and also kind of serving as a conduit of information from the state to the chapter and vice versa. So we think it would be a great idea if we kind of tried something like this. It's kind of hard for me to kind of separate, what is it that the membership chapter relations committee does that the chapter council does differently. And I think that it's more about kind of the focus and the context. Like chapter council is just about, helping each other out. More established chapters kind of helping out newer chapters and kind of the sharing of information, from a diverse set of regional chapters.
And the membership chapter relations committee does more of the administrative side of things.
The boring stuff, yeah.
The paperwork and the stuff that's not that fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we think it's a great idea. We would really like to move forward on it. So give us your thoughts about it. I mean, when I talk to people in chapters and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I need to tell these other people in the chapter, but there's not an easy way to get a piece of information out to all the chapters. So this chapter council would be a way to do that. So yeah. All right. Well, back to Lori.
Back to me. Okay, so this is kind of the last thing we wanted to touch on tonight before we open it up for questions. And I also wanted to just take a moment to tell you guys that I was thinking before the meeting started about what was going on in October of 2020, so a year ago. I really don't think Ellen and Ron and Michelle and I could have envisioned that a year from then we would have 6 chapters forming. We were kind of in the throes of the pandemic and we were in the throes of trying to begin to put together all this policy stuff that we needed to do. And it just seemed like the hill we had to climb was so steep. And I just cannot express how far we have come. And I'm sure Tom Collins can agree with me from 2018, 2019. And how thrilled we are to know that there are 6 chapters out there that are getting started. And I just thank you all so much for having the passion and getting on board with us. And we have wanted to do a strategic planning session for over a year, and of course it got waylaid with the pandemic, but we're finally making it happen this next month. And I really wish that we could bring all the forming chapters in to participate in this session, because I think it's going to be cool. But we are still in the pandemic. We're still trying to be cautious about crowd, too many people together. And I had a discussion with our consultant about this, and she said, split sessions where you have some people in a room and some people virtual, it just really doesn't work. So we did certainly think of you guys with the strategic planning, and here's what we've got planned. So the board, the small state board, will be getting together the weekend of November 20th and 21st to really hone in on establishing our core purpose of who we're serving, how and why at both the state and the chapter level. So we're going to think of it both in terms of like, what is the state GNPS? Who are we serving, which is primarily you guys? And then also thinking about individual members that you guys are serving at the chapter level. We're going to be identifying a strategic focus for the next 3 years with a real definite 1-year action plan is going to come out of this session. We have called through, when we were going to do strategic planning a couple of years ago, we conducted probably 20 to 30 interviews with members, with allied partners, and we have called through all of that, as well as membership surveys over the last several years, to really assimilate what we feel like are the goals that GNPS needs to have for the near future. So once we get that hammered out in November, sometime either in December or possibly January, because I'm not really sure, we may be bumping up on the end of year holidays, but we will meet virtually with all of the chapter leadership, and the consultant will be meeting with us, and we will present to you this framework that we've developed. We'll get your feedback, will then refine the plan and align with you guys on that 1-year action plan and responsibilities, and help, identify where we go from here. And I hope that, I really hope that we will be able to do a strategic planning session at least every 2 years, if not every year. And certainly we will have chapters involved in that, in strategic planning sessions moving forward. But anyway, I know you guys all have your hands full, and we don't want to ask you to do anything else. But if anybody has a burning desire to participate in the pre-work activities of the strategic planning, I will be happy to sit down with you or a couple of you on a Zoom call one day and show you our little pre-work questionnaire that we're filling out. If you have some input that you feel would be or if you would like to have your input considered now, I certainly am open to taking that down and carrying that with us to the strategic planning session in November. Okay.
Lori, that December meeting with the chapter leadership, is that going to be individually with each chapter, or will it be with all chapters at once?
No, it'll be a group meeting.
Okay.
So it would be a group Zoom call between the board, and we'd probably invite, chapter officers,
okay,
whoever wants to participate, but it would be a Zoom call, and the consultant would facilitate it.
Okay.
And my thought is, my thought is I'm going to be meeting with the consultant in the next week or so to hammer out our agenda for November 21st, 2021. And I thought we would go ahead and start to throw out some dates for that virtual meeting, and start to get, people, put out as a doodle poll or something like that, so we can kind of go ahead and decide on a date for that. That might be, we might have it in an evening, a weekday evening, or it might be like a weekend. We kind of envisioned it being a couple of hours long. It's not going to be a real short meeting. We wanted it to actually be a meaningful time. So anyway, if it needs to be put off to January, that's fine. We don't want anybody to feel rushed about it, but I do want to start trying to get that date pinned down so that everybody can plan on it.
And with that, we have come to the end of the presentation. So tell me what questions you have.
I guess I just have a general question about, I know that some of us are interim, board members, and with our kickoff meetings, they'll probably have new board members. Is there a I mean, this is so valuable, this information, but I think there are going to be new people. Is there any recommendation on how to transition the new people into the chapter leadership? Or has anybody done it yet? No? Okay.
Well, we've got the chapter manual, and then this will be recorded.
Okay.
And the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then of course the membership and chapter relations committee is there for any kind of questions.
Right.
But as far as formal,
okay. I forgot you were recording this, because I'm sitting here taking notes, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember all this.
Well, I'll tell you that notes at the time of receiving the information are more valuable than a recording.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
And also, Shannon, I mean, this is our first crack at this, really. So, we have talked many times, and do plan to have more of these types of calls with the chapters, with the chapter leadership as they come on board. And, just like in January, we will have an orientation session for the new state board members. We envision probably having a chapter orientation training session. So, yeah. and hopefully we'll get those also recorded, and that way those can be preserved for posterity. But no, I think that will be an ongoing type of thing. Yeah.
Well, Michelle and Ron held our hand all the way through the application, so we appreciate it so much in town Atlanta.
Well, and even though, yeah, and I mean, hopefully this slug, and then, you know, we've got 2 other chapters, you know, I mean, I don't know how many more chapters will onboard again this quickly, but still, you know, every chapter will have new board members coming on, you know, probably each year. So we still envision probably at least once a year we would have kind of a training session.
Okay.
Yeah, for board members. And then Ron envisions a financial training session for treasurers, and
That would be very helpful.
Great, perfect.
Anytime you guys think, you know, a training would be beneficial, just let us know and we'll be happy to try to arrange that.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, anything that we've talked about tonight that you think, well, it'd be nice to have a more in-depth meeting about that particular subject, let us know. We're willing to do that, because Ron and I had said, in particular, the finance stuff, there's so much there that if we had just a treasurer's meeting later on to go more in depth into those materials, it would probably be a great advantage. So that, or anything else you think of that you'd like to just hear more about, learn more about, let us know and we can set something else up.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay.
Brain's full.
My brain's full too. Well, after I'll email out this presentation this slide deck that we've just gone through to everyone who was on the call. And, you know, the links are active, so you can click on the links and find the IRS website or the chapter manual pages or whatever. And once you think about it, and, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night or in your shower tomorrow and they're like, what are they talking about? You know, those great ideas come, you know, just email us and let us know.
Oh, gosh.
Figure it out together. You know, that happens.
Ooh, yeah. Yes.
And as whoever said, we did record this meeting. We'll make it available. So if you want to go back and listen to it just to clarify anything that you heard, you're certainly welcome to do that.
Great. Helpful.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been very exciting for me to have all of you come together and talk together. So thank you for coming.
Exciting.
Thank you, Michelle, for making it happen.
Oh, for sure. You've really been so helpful.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I want to
Michelle.
chime in that the entire board is so excited about the new chapters, so we're here to help.
Yay. All right.
All right. Well, then everyone have a good evening and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for your
everybody.
time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.